It is now 5:30, and we'd like to call the Culture and Leisure Service Board regular meeting of the 31st of January to order. Like to have a roll call, please?
Jean Petrie,
Here.
Douglas Raymond,
Here.
Barbara McPeak, Maureen Michelle,
Here.
Mickey Kellum.
Here.
For the record, Larry Holmes and Tim Bass are absent and excused.
Okay, at this portion of the meeting, since it's the first meeting of the new year, we have an opportunity here to elect someone as chairman and also vice chairman of this board. And before we get started into our regular business meeting, it's appropriate now to open the floor for nominations.
Can we nominate you again, Gene?
Yes.
I nominate Gene Petrie if he can do it.
Well, I was kind of hoping that one of our new members who will give us some longevity and time, on this board, would have been here, and maybe we could take a hard look at that, but it's, again, not being here, it's a little difficult. But it's up to the board, whatever you want. I would do whatever you deem necessary. And
I nominate Gene Petrie.
I
For chair.
second.
second,
I did.
are there any other nominations? Hearing none, we'll move on and to the vice chairman position at this time. By the way, as far as the chairman, is everyone in favor? You may as well, I don't know if you want to do a secret ballot or a show of hands or
Well,
whatever.
I mean, a motion was made and seconded, so you could call for either, you could call raise your hands or call for
All
a
right,
roll, either
please
one.
raise your hands if you're in favor. Not in favor? Okay. Now for vice chairman.
And let the record show that I was unanimously approved.
Vice Chairman, Doug, I'd like to see you continue on in that capacity for the rest of your tenure as mine, and I would nominate Doug Raymond.
I second.
Okay, show of hands, all in favor? Okay, Douglas.
Okay.
You have no choice.
All right, this meeting that we have this evening gives the general public an opportunity to address this board. Not that we would take any action on their recommendations or suggestions, but this is an opportunity for public participation. Is there anyone here that would like to address this board? Mrs. Raymond?
I'd like to talk about the poet laureate you have in your packet, and I think that you have a wonderful example of the quality of work that has been offered to us. And you might say, why poet laureate? And the answer is very simply, it's to up all of us. These are all things that we are bringing forth in the city to give us a better quality of life, so that people really want to come and live here. People do want to come and live here. And this is another opportunity for all of our residents to share in literature. It's another way for us to go into the school and teach our children about poetry and reading and the importance of reading. I might want to tell you that I found this poet laureate program for the state of Florida in a magazine, one of the Quality Cities magazines, and started reading about it and then reading about the different poets in these cities in Florida. And I thought to myself, we can do that. And I'm sure that there's plenty of talent here in Cape Canaveral and in Colton, which I always say in Colton. But we really have quite interesting citizens it really is an amazing thing what you find out about people, what they like to read, and of course, we have a beautiful library. And this is just another way to share. When I first brought this up, and I was saying out loud to the mayor, I said, Mayor, as soon as I was elected, I said I would really like to have a poet laureate for Cape Canaveral. And the mayor said, what? And I said, a poet laureate. And he said, what? And I said, a poet laureate. And he said, well, what is a poet laureate? So I explained, and then I went again, and he said, well, what does a poet laureate do? And what does a poet laureate do for a city? At that point, I explained who Maya Angelou and Robert Frost were, and I also went through and said, poet laureate will read poems at special events for our city. And this is something that is interesting for many of us in the city. And he said, oh, okay. So anyway, my next step was I had to show everyone what a poet laureate does. So I thought, well, what the heck, I might as well get in there. And last January, I started and I wrote and read a poem at the end of every council meeting. And I was quite surprised about the response I got. People would wait, they stood up, they clapped, and I was like, really? And the first poem was about the opening of the city hall. And the second poem was a haiku, but it also was about the city. It was about moving on up as a city. And the third and fourth poems, I think we did limericks. We started doing limericks about every council member. And then in December, they turned the tables on me, and they, the staff and council, wrote a limerick about me. So we've had a lot of fun with it. But on the other hand, it's a great value to the city. Along with the art and literature goes together in universities and in colleges, and one goes with the other. And I think this is just another way to enhance our lives. So I really, really promote that.
Thank you. Anyone wish to comment on that? If none, that will be coming up under new business. At this time, we want to bring your attention to the minutes of our last meeting, which was November the 29th. Did everyone receive copies of the minutes?
Yes.
If so, are there any corrections or additions needed to these minutes? If none, I'll accept a motion to approve the minutes of the November meeting, November 29th meeting. Okay, Barbara approves, second.
I'll second it.
Mickey seconds it. Okay. No dispute, so we're all in agreement, is that correct, that the minutes are approved? All right, staff report. This gives our director an opportunity to answer any questions. A very elaborate report, of course, and I really, really enjoy, and I'm glad you go to the depth that you do, Molly and Gustavo, in putting this report together. I think it's great. Thank you. Gustavo, I'll turn it over to you at this point.
Well, as you can see, obviously, these are all excerpts from the weekly update. I hope you guys have all been getting your weekly updates. Staff started doing something a little different, which is they are playing with the date of when the weekly update is released. Have you guys noticed a difference in that at all? So, yeah. It used to be sent on Friday afternoons, and he was getting a certain amount of clicks, openings, etc. Through his research, they decided that by perhaps trying different days and times when the weekly update was released, it may rise those numbers of people opening the actual weekly update, reading it. So far, the experiment has worked. I think he's seen quite an uptick by sending it on Mondays, when people are actually opening, and then from opening it and clicking on the email to actually reading it. So it's a good thing. Something happens here a lot where people are always saying, well, I don't know what's going on in the city. And again, we keep beating the drum that no other city that I'm aware of does such a thorough weekly update for every department. So if you don't know what's going on in the city, it's probably because you don't want to read, you know. And we've been told that, hey, I don't want to read a 60-page paper. Okay, well, we're trying. So as far as the events that happened, December was incredibly busy, as you know, and everything was a great success. Luckily, we didn't have to cancel anything. The reindeer run broke a record as far as the amount of money that was raised, thanks to Mary Jane Binney, who was really mostly out there getting businesses to promote Brevard County Sheriff's Office PAL. The city, as you know, is the home of Brevard County Sheriff's Office PAL, and it's a youth and teen organization that promotes, obviously, leadership. It just gives our young people a place to actually be with each other. It provides mentorship. It gives them opportunities for volunteer service. And so the reindeer run was able to raise enough money to fully fund the whole program for the year. So the reindeer run's a great thing. And our last Friday Fest, if you were there, was also a record breaker. We couldn't fit any people there. It was just great. Tomorrow's Friday Fest, we're holding our fingers together. Hopefully the weather holds up. Space Coast Little League is the host. They have it as far as liquor, and that'll be February, March, and April. So they have 3 months. Working with the PTO at Cape View, they're raising funds for a playground right now. And so it looks like perhaps they're going to have August and September as far as Friday Fest to help them raise money for their continued playground. They're looking at replacing that within the next couple months. So had our last movie in the park. That was, again, very well attended. As you can see, Molly is working on some public art programs, and she's partnering with community engagement off that, obviously because of Molly's background in cultural and history and art. She's integral to that process in helping, and then obviously Josh in community engagement also knows everything about art. So again, it's all about making a sense of place, making Cape Canaveral unique. It all translates into a better place to live. It translates directly into people that live here and property values. So it's all this very neatly tied web. On Saturday, this Saturday, we're having the kickoff for the Mayor's Fitness Challenge. We're having a walk as part of that. We're having almost all of our instructors, I think at least 90% attendance as far as our instructors trying to meet the public, engaging the public and coming to their classes and getting more information. Youth organizations are going to be there, as well as a lot of practitioners in healthy living. So, for seniors, as Medicare, Medicaid rep is going to be here, and what they do is they help seniors really get all the benefits they deserve. There's going to be, just a lot of health and wellness practitioners. So it's going to be a really neat event, and it's going to be here right at the side of Friday Fest. So please come out. And obviously, you guys get our recreator, and it's just full of activities. I mean, usually this time of the year, as some of you that play tennis and over there, our attendance nearly quadruples. So all of a sudden, our shuffleboard courts are full. Tennis and pickleballers are fighting for time on the courts. Just every class is packed to the gills. So it's a really good time for the city right now. A quick update on the multi-generational. It's still in design. We just met with a landscape architect to talk about some of the trees that are going to have to come out of the site and how that's going to be remediated as far as trees that go back and what kind of trees go back. But that's moving forward. We're looking, again, on the weekly update, we're looking at hopefully within 3 months having full construction plans for that building. Then obviously bidding comes and then construction. So we're really close. But anyways, do you guys have any questions for me at all?
Not a question, but I'd encourage everybody on the board to join the Mayor's Fitness Challenge. If you don't know about it, we won it the first year, and Cocoa Beach took the trophy away from us last year because we came in second. So I encourage it doesn't matter how many hours you put in, every hour counts. So all you have to do is sign up on the city website, and turn in your hours every week, 1 or 2 hours, doesn't make any difference. They all accumulate.
Any other questions from our director's report? Hearing none, we'll proceed on to the next item on the agenda. Oh, here it is. Old business. Couple items that I, one in particular, I kind of wondered, has the date been established for next year's art festival? That's question number one. Number two, do we now have a better recap on what transpired at this last art show?
I think that they have not reached out to us. It's been back and forth between their group and all the different city staff to actually meet and have a recap. It's been very hard to coordinate that. What I will tell you is, as far as anecdotally from my end, there were no issues with the park like there were last year, where some actual irrigation pipes were broken, and none of that this year. So as far as the date, it seemed to work better with Brevard County Sheriff's Office and Brevard and Canaveral Fire Rescue, as far as being able to staff it, because obviously over Thanksgiving it becomes very hard to do that. There haven't been any talks about moving it back to November. So as of now, I think their new date they're trying to establish is that date in October. And we have not heard exactly how they did, I heard it was very big, and again, anecdotally, I heard it was very busy the first day on Saturday, not as busy on Sunday. When we went there on Sunday, they were actually parking all festival attendees on site, which kind of means that they didn't have to use any off-site parking, which is probably not the best thing for the event, considering they were probably hoping for 10 times the amount of people. But so I don't know if any of you guys went. But
Yeah, just an observation. I thought the attendance was, especially on Sunday, was down. But I still feel that the lack of promotion of the event, because it's a great event. It brings so many wonderful people to our community. And certainly I always encourage friends of mine and residents to get out and participate in the show. But just kind of wondered, and I like the fact that they're before Cocoa Beach. That's a decisive advantage, and hopefully they'll continue to keep it separate and not run head to head.
I will say, people don't understand, and you do, Gene, in what it takes to put an event of that magnitude together. And it's almost a year-round job. These folks are all volunteers. And as far as marketing, like you say, you have to be a bit of a wolf as far as capturing any and all marketing that you can. And that can almost be a full-time job for somebody, being part of the marketing team for an event. And they're just a handful of volunteers putting this whole thing together. So they desperately need volunteers. They desperately need very engaged people that are going to be, on the ball about it. And I hope they do that, because, as you say, that's an area where they could definitely improve and get their word out, and it directly ties to attendance. So I'm with you. Was there a second question you had? I forgot.
No, that basically the dates, and also
Yeah.
what the feel was as far as the
Yeah.
participation in this year's event. I don't know that they probably had about the same number of vendors that they had the previous year. But it's something that we need to build on. I think it's a great event for our community, and it's unfortunate that, it would have been nice where you have maybe a little more parking if there was a place for that. But right now, the parking that we have can pretty well accommodate it with the off-site parking. Okay, any other questions on that issue? The other thing, as far as activities, as far as the programs that we're running with the city, are there any programs that, in your opinion, are suspect or the attendance and participation is down?
From the events we run, which are mostly Friday Fest and Movie in the Park, as far as a regular ongoing event, attendance both from vendors and the public has increased significantly. All of our seasonal events, again, continue to thrive. Our contracted instructor class offerings has increased dramatically. Some classes are very popular. Some classes maybe not so popular, but for the classes that aren't incredibly well attended, the only other option is an empty room. So if the instructor doesn't mind having 2 students, we make 25% from that anyways. So outside of some lights on or off, there's no big impact to the city. And it's actually a great thing to offer Zumba every day of the week because, you may not be available Mondays and Wednesdays. Every once in a while, we have issues with people trying to teach classes without a permit. Specifically, the one main one is yoga on the beach. There's people who think that because it's the beach, they can just come teach yoga out there. The city has one permit allowed, one permitted instructor to teach yoga on the beach, and she teaches, as you have it on here, on your recreator, off of Cherry Down Park. And right now, obviously, the sand dredging is going on, so that's impacting her class some. But as you can see, we have beach yoga, I'm going to say 4 times a week. This lady has been background screened and fingerprinted at her cost. She is fully covered in insurance. She's a certified yoga instructor, and she pays the city. And so when you go through that process, then that gives you the ability to teach. Anybody else who wants to do that, if they want to teach boot camp at Manatee, we have a boot camp instructor out there. They have to go through that process, obviously, because any class that the city sponsors and it's behind, then we want to make sure this person fits all the criteria. And if you're not doing that and you're taking money outside, it's just like you having a hot dog vending on the right of way. You're doing commercial business on public property, and obviously that's against city code of ordinances. So those classes, Gene, we don't tell an instructor, hey, you're only getting 2 or 3 people, you got to get out. If not, the room's empty, so that's 2 or 3 residents that want to come and engage and be healthier. So does that answer the question?
Yeah, I would certainly hope if a program only produced 2 people in a city of our size, that maybe we'd look at it either to help and encourage the instructor to build the program. If they can't build the program, you turn the lights on, you got the space, you got the heat, you got the air conditioning. It sometimes, well exceeds what the income is. Pickleball, how is pickleball going?
Pickleball has started to come back. They start to show up about now, which is great. And over the next 2 months, they start to develop a good following. And then after March, they just drops off to nothing. What I will tell you is once we have the multi-generational center, we're going to be able to offer that year-round, and it will be really busy. Other municipalities now that offer indoor pickleball, like Cocoa Beach, Satellite Beach, Melbourne, Vieira, they are very busy because obviously in the summer you can play. You don't have to worry about the wind, heat, cold. So that makes a huge difference to play pickleball indoors. But, they're starting to all come back. We're starting to see a lot of our regular faces, making the rounds. The way we've done it, and this was per their request, is we've concentrated to certain times. So that way it kind of makes them come here. When we started the program, we said, hey, we'll set up the nets all day and you guys can just come play. Well, we've compressed it to certain times, and so that way they know to come and have a meetup. So we're starting a new softball program, 16-inch softball, and it'll start next Thursday. because it's a new sport here, and I'm sure, I don't know if they played it in St. Louis, but I know in
played in
Chicago,
Chicago.
Illinois, right? It's a big deal. It's called 16-inch softball, and it's just played with a bigger ball. The more you hit it, the softer it gets. The baselines are a lot closer, so it's a very strategic, fast game. So we want to be the first to introduce that here, specifically because eventually the softball field will go away at Canaveral City Park. So that's one. Two, up until now, we have had a bit of, not a lot, but we've had some issues with some of the neighbors with balls falling over into their yard and them not liking that very much. And then the players themselves not being the most respectful when they have to get the ball or whatever. So if you live by the park, obviously you probably don't like that so much.
We had a league in school that I participated in, 1947, we had a league.
The 16-inch?
Yes,
There you go. So
it's been around, it's coming back.
it never went away, except it just has never made it here, But in Chicago, it's still super strong. And you can play it in the Little League field. Eventually what we'll do is we'll take the perimeter fencing from softball and move it to Little League. They can't really hit it out of the park anyways, because it's just the more you hit it, the softer it gets. But eventually our softball and kickball leagues will move over into the Little League field. So we're going to have to accommodate for that. And obviously share the field with Little League. They're aware and very okay with it. The way we're starting it next Thursday is we're doing a drop-in, just like tennis. So it's going to be $3 per player. And then just like back in the schoolyard, you get to pick your teams. And just to give people a try, and we're going to have our umpire up there. But we just want people to try it, There's a couple teams from our existing league. Regular softball is very tricky because, A, it's dangerous. That ball coming at you,
Aluminum bats.
Yes, sir. Even though we try to outlaw certain juiced bats, it still can be very dangerous. So being that we always wanted a very inclusive co-ed league, the teams always have had a hard time finding ladies. So the beauty of this softball is not as intimidating. We're still going to keep it co-ed, but we're taking a lot of the danger factor out of it. We're putting a lot more skill into the game. And it's just a fun game because it's just not about you being able to slam it as far into the outfield so anyways, in softball, we were down to 4 teams. And when we told them we were going to go to 16-inch, they weren't jumping up and down. And so I said, honestly, for 4 teams, we can start at 0 and rebuild a really cool league again, And 2 of those teams play competitive ball year round. So we were really kind of not the league for them. Every time they played, they were beating everybody. So we would get a new team from like DR, the new health place, they'd go together and come and just get whooped over there. At the end of the season, they were like, well, that was a little too competitive. So we wanted something that was more fun and inclusive. So we're starting over, and this is the first step. It's us just letting people try, come play, and just to get the feel of it. And hopefully after 4 or 5 weeks, we can encourage those people to form a team and, get a league going. So we're going to continue to promote that.
Getting back to pickleball, I was kind of surprised some of the condominiums that have tennis courts, they got, I know the place I'm at, 4 days a week they play pickleball. That's occupies an awful lot of time. Mickey, are you still involved in the city garden program?
Not as much as I was, but I've been, by. It's,
You are?
Yeah.
Okay. You want to give us what are you hearing? When does the
green.
planting take place?
It looks
Well, it
beautiful.
was in the fall that there's planting, and the season is just about up because some of the plants are growing well. Some through experimentation through the years do not grow well. For instance, tomatoes are very difficult in this area.
Right.
But this year, people have spread out a little bit. We got cauliflower that's magnificent. Broccoli is growing real good, yeah. So I think through the years, people are with the experiment, and eggplant you can't get rid of. You don't even have to plant it, it comes up every year. But anyways, I think people are getting attuned to what does well in this climate. And as far as the resources, I mean, you get a bed that's fully prepared with water in it. You got 6 jugs of water now that it's filled up all the time. So watering isn't a problem. And people seem, the ones that are there this year seems to be maintaining their plots a lot better than previous years, so.
I had a question about that is, originally they said that they were going to try other spots in the city for gardens as well. Has any of that?
They're still looking at places, you know, with how built out the city is. It's hard finding a place, you know, so we were lucky that that place was there.
Yeah.
But outside of that, they're having a hard time. But I know Josh is working on it.
Yeah.
And with the gardeners, Cape View Elementary wants to do their own garden. And so the gardeners are going to eventually partner with Cape View and show the kids how to have their own garden inside the school, and the kids will maintain it. But hopefully it's a good work day there where the gardeners can go and show them how to do it all. I know Jill Keene, the principal, is working on that, so.
Anything else under old business?
I have something to bring up under old business. We had originally, in the last meeting, we were trying to partner the VFW Cancer Walk with the Mayor's Fitness Challenge. And it didn't work out for other reasons, but we, as the VFW and the American Legion, are having a booth at the Mayor's Fitness Challenge where we will be having sign-up sheets there. Our walk is February 9th, the next week, and it's a 1.5 mile walk. And we got our T-shirts today, which I wanted to show everybody.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
So these are for sale for $15, and the money goes to the Cancer Society. And we keep all the money locally here in Brevard County. It's not sent nationally. So I wanted to just say that we will be at the Mayor's Fitness Challenge Saturday.
Saturday, yeah.
And then our walk will be the following Saturday and the sign up is at 8:30 at the
VFW.
VFW. And we're walking from the VFW to the American Legion and back. And then there's entertainment at the VFW and a barbecue, and all the money stays locally for the Cancer Society.
Aren't they also having something at the Legion too, Mickey?
They're not having any entertainment there. Everything is basically at the VFW.
Okay.
But they'll have coffee. And then also at Veterans Park on the walk, there'll be a water station there and a rest station for anybody that needs to just sit and have some water before they finish the walk. And then we have escorts and people, but we will have all the sign-up sheets at the Mayor's Challenge.
How much did you say the shirts were?
15.
Okay.
One last item I have under old business, always concerned about our parks and our investment in the parks, is the vandalism aspect. How has it been going the last couple of months?
It's been incredibly, the only issue we have had is a little bit of homeless folks using the ladies' restroom at Canaveral City Park. Somehow they've found a way a couple times to sneak in there and sleep, and unfortunately shove God knows what down the toilets and clog them. So, but not enough to really make it. I hope tomorrow we're not dealing with something, but it's very, very low few months. We're installing new swings at Manatee, and we had an original footer per the specifications from the manufacturer. We felt the footer wasn't strong enough, so we've doubled the size of the footer. So we have about 6 tons of concrete under those swings right now. And we're going to have an amazing ADA bucket swing, and that's being delivered either tomorrow or Monday. So if you have a child with special needs or, a young teen, you're going to be able to sit them very safely in that, and they'll be able to use a swing. We're getting a mommy and me swing where a parent can sit on the belt swing and it has a child bucket attached to it. That's going to be
Nice,
amazing.
yeah.
As well as regular belts and regular buckets. So by next week, Manatee Playground will be fully open and it'll be a beautiful thing. And then obviously our dog park here, we're almost getting ready to start truly digging out there. Everything's been permitted, City of Cocoa, and we're waiting just on the contractor. It's a very specialized contractor that can tap into the City of Cocoa main water line. So we have a contract with a company that's going to do that. It's called a wet tap. Just now, in case you didn't know what that was, it's called a wet tap. And they tap into the water main. And then from there, we're going to be able to tie into that to put a water fountain. We have a couple little splash pad items that the dogs are going to enjoy. So that's coming very soon. I think by our next meeting, we're going to be very close to completing that park. So back in the visioning, and at one point, if you remember, everybody had already picked the name of the park, and so we're going to continue on that trend, and it's going to tie into the, how many years of space? 50? 50 years of the moon landing. The city's celebrating that. And so we're going to, that's right, and we're going to tie this park into that, if you could figure out a big clue with that one. But you guys already should know, because the park was named when it was going to be at Manatee, and didn't happen over there. But we're going to continue on that trend.
Anything else under old business? If not, we'll move on to new business.
All right.
Are you going to
Sure.
share this?
So as Councilmember Raymond gave you an awesome description, it was obviously culture is something that the city, improving everything when it comes to culture. Obviously, that's the first word in the department, culture and leisure services. So it's an integral part of everything that we do. And Councilmember Raymond led the way in really bringing this part of culture into the city. She felt it was important, and residents responded. We had a lot of entries, and the process was a blind selection by a committee. The whole packet is here, and you can see how intensive the application process was, and everybody was very surprised as to how many poets. Just like when we did all of this beautiful art, this all showed up, and not a lot of people knew that Cape Canaveral was full of artists and their art's displayed everywhere. So we're a very vibrant community of people. And so through blind selection, the committee chose Mr. Tim Bass as the poet laureate for the city. And we're looking for you guys to recommend him to city council, and he'll be he'll have that title. What is the term, Molly? No, the term of being the poet laureate for how long? 3 years. So Mr. Tim Bass will be the poet laureate for 3 years. So it's actually kind of somewhat of a good thing he's not here, because he couldn't vote for himself anyways. He'd have to recuse, but so yeah, so we're just looking for the board's recommendation to move forward to city council.
Let's go back through the beginning of this whole process. What involvement, I mean, how did city council deal with this recommendation or suggestion? I mean, is it something that was voted on by city council? Yes.
We did it this month. What I'd like to say, and I'm sorry that I did this, is that when I brought it up to Molly, the idea I brought it up all over. But I also talked to Molly and to Scott about this. And Molly took it like you wouldn't believe. And Molly has done an unbelievable job with this by doing the research. She's researched almost 1 year. And she went through the Florida program. It's a Florida program of poets laureate. And she went through, she did the research, she talked to different artists in different cities about this, and she has done a magnificent job with this whole project. And they are expecting.
Okay, so it has not yet gone through city council. It's kind of at this body point.
Yeah.
It's, you know, anything to do with culture is it's great and wonderful for those people who want to participate. There's a tremendous number of cultural activities that we really would have a difficult time as a city, as this board, to really work with and deal with. It's what I call a special interest. And certainly special interests, whether it be the mathematics club, the scientist club, the junior achievement club. I mean, you can go on and on and on. It just, for the city to be tied up and wrapped up in all of these activities, and I find that I don't know that it really has a place. I'm interested in my city streets, my lights, my police protection, my fire protection, my garbage, my water. That's where I want my taxpayers' money to go. As far as special interest groups go, they can raise their own monies. They can have their own meetings. They can develop their own programs. We could probably have 150, 200 different programs like that.
This is to promote the city.
Pardon?
This position would be to promote the city. That's the main focus.
Well, all of these other activities also promote the city. It's not just poetry. It could be artists, you know, the art club. Could be the book club, the people who are writers, you know, professional writers. We can certainly delve into that area. I'm just trying to point out the fact that, you know, I don't know, I guess I would personally, before I vote on this, I'd really like to look at it a little harder and talk to people and see, you know, what their thoughts are and their comments. I don't have any other input other than what I've just heard here this evening.
How do I respond? So here's kind of where we're at, Gene, with this program. There's really, outside of Molly's time, which as a cultural programs manager, her job is to promote culture, whether it's arts,
It's fine,
visual,
sure.
it's all of it. Although Angela said there was a lot of research done, there was a lot of research done, but it wasn't an unsurmountable amount of time. So within Molly's 40-hour work week, she was able to fit all this without in any way, shape, or form jeopardizing not only any other of her job duties, but flourishing at all of them. As Ms. Raymond, as Councilmember Raymond said, this is to promote the city, culture in the city, and you know, everybody has their opinion as to what's important and what's a core city service or not a core city service. So there's no taxpayer money going into this. This is a thing that promotes the city culturally, because we're already leaps and bounds. When you talk about core services, right, and we talk about, for example, preventing pollutants from going into the river, this city not only is ahead of the curve, we are leap years ahead of everybody. We're about to be the only city in Cape Canaveral, and I could almost say, I'm not going to say Florida because I don't have that puts zero affluent into the lagoon. The exfiltration project took a huge load off. We're about to put some additional infrastructure over there that's going to take it all away. So all of the basics that you just mentioned, we have covered and have hit home runs with. The only places where we can still hit home runs is our cultural engagement, because obviously that was severely lacking forever. If you remember Marlene, I've been here for 6 years, she wanted a place for the arts, and we started with City Hall, and now it's flourishing. Thanks to Molly, we have a piece of history outside, free. This Poet Laureate program, you're not saying the city is getting involved in anything other than having a representative that at special events and within that community will read a poem, and a lot of times those poems are to engage our youth, because yes, STEM is part of it, but now it's all about STEAM, and arts is a huge part of that, because we have found through research that art is integral to cognitive development in children. So, you know, nobody's asking the city to tie into any kind of a special interest. A special interest is improvement of the community. There's at zero cost. So Mr. Bass went through all the trouble, or, you know, it could have been whoever, of applying because other people applied. And now they're going to go through the trouble of volunteering at no cost to the city, just to promote the city and to promote culture within the city. So I'm not sure where like core services fall within this, because the city's not providing anything outside of just at a city event like our Founders Day. Perhaps Mr. Tim Bass does a really beautiful poem about the city. You know, that's all that is. It 100% is an honorary position.
Isn't it the same as the city historian, who is like
Well, and that's Molly's. Molly's the
Right.
staff historian, yeah.
But I mean, if before Molly was, we had
Right, if you
Sue.
had somebody who was actually a legitimate historian
Historian.
with accreditation
Right.
and
But
had
it's not
a,
a paid position. It'll never be
right,
a
right, yeah. But again, Mickey, if we had a historian that had incredible credentials and they were willing to do a lot of that for free, and they were a very legit, reputable, absolutely, it would be the exact same thing, yeah.
And then my other question is, how many applicants who decided that he should be?
Okay, Molly, you can expand on that one.
All right, did you happen to see the memo that started that part of the?
Yes.
Okay, so I tried to outline as best as possible within that memo, because it's hard to explain the full scope of it. We had 3 applicants. Only 2 of them were residents of Cape Canaveral. The third one was very good, and we've retained his information, and we're going to try to incorporate him in future things. He's tied in with Cocoa Beach High School, and he is a resident of Cocoa Beach. And he is very excited to be a part of whatever programs we have going forward, and was understanding of the fact that we really wanted for this position a local Cape Canaveral resident. The second person that applied was very, very talented, and was also a very accomplished author. The issue that our committee faced when trying to decide between those 2 very qualified candidates was the initial, the purpose of the program. We want to focus on education. We want the person that is put into this position to focus on education and engaging kids, and all ages of kids, not just our Cape View students, but our high school students as well, in literacy-based programs, in creative writing. It's not just about computers, it's about being able to think creatively as well. So when they looked at the programs that were proposed, because each candidate was asked to submit a letter suggesting programs that they would institute, this person wanted to focus on adult problems. His focus was drug addiction and other things that are very present in our community. Rehabilitation after criminal situations, stuff like that. And the reason they settled on Tim is because his programs were education-oriented, whereas the other gentlemen's were more focused on adult problems.
If I could just add, though, to your question, Molly put the program together. She received all the applications, put them together, and gave them to a committee. So Molly had no vote in it. The committee received blind applications. They knew nothing about who each candidate was. The committee was comprised of how many people, Molly?
4.
4, and one of them was, I believe, Councilmember Raymond. Yeah, and staff. But again, it was a blind selection. So they mostly chose on the work and the scope of the applications, rather than they didn't know Mr. Bass was applying for this.
Who are the committee members?
And each of the committee members, the first one was Lisa Day. Her background is in arts, composition, and writing as well.
I'm sorry, what is the name?
Her name is Lisa Day. She is the admin for Mr. Green. The other person was, Angela, what was her name?
Dorothy Keller.
Dorothy Keller, she was a professor of literature, and she also has background in communications. Angela, whose degree is in linguistics, and she has obviously a long list of credentials involving writing and composition. And the fourth person was our previous communications specialist with the city. Her name was Jan Childs, and her background was in journalism and in writing.
Is that Jan Tile, T-I-L-E?
Childs.
Child?
Yeah. She's no longer with the city.
Okay. Okay.
Another question. It says that they'll be like the honorary, they'll make public appearances at community events. And a lot of times the city partners with the school. So would he go to the school and do poetry there to get the kids involved?
Absolutely,
Would
if
that be part
available,
of-
yeah, we want to, yeah, anywhere where he can be, and we see that it's a good thing to, it's always a good thing to promote culture, and if it fits within the event, absolutely,
Okay,
yeah.
great.
No further questions?
I like it.
Well, at this point, we can make a motion to approve as a cultural leisure service board, the approval of the program as presented in writing here today.
Because he's on the board, is that gonna be a?
No, it doesn't
Because it's
conflict
both
anything.
volunteer.
No, I mean, if he was here, then he would have to just rescind from the vote, that's all.
Oh,
Yeah, he couldn't vote on himself.
okay.
I'll make a recommendation that we proceed with the poet laureate candidate, Tim Bass, as a recommendation from our council, or from our committee to the city council.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Doug Raymond, seconded by Mickey Kilman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, unanimously carried.
Thank you.
Anything else under new business? Hearing none? No new business here?
No, sir.
Okay. We hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, Mickey Killen makes a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mrs. Michelle. Okay, at this time, do we have a date for our next meeting?
March 20.
On March 20th.
Don't forget to buy your t-shirts.
Oh,
I may need a
Like
trip,
the
I
t-shirts.
can't get used to that. March 28th.
These are people tying into the mayor's fitness.
Yes, that's what we're trying to. How do we do that?
Okay, at this time, this meeting of the Culture and Leisure Service Board is adjourned.
So for
Thank you,
everybody
guys.
that signs up,
Anybody that
Thank you all for coming.
that lives in the city.
Can we just buy the
Ad-lib
shirts
it.
without signing up?
We don't want them to.